Hello everyone and welcome to Season 6, Episode 49 of Pro Wrestling's Top 50. I'm your host Travis McNeil, and today we continue our countdown of the top 50 matches of 2021 with match number 2 on our list, which is the GHC Heavyweight title and GHC National title match between the Heavyweight Champion Katsuhiko Nakajima and the National Champion Kenou from the Pro Wrestling Noah The Best 2021 event held on November the 28th of 2021. So close. Pro Wrestling Noah and specifically Nakajima were to sliding into the number 1 spot for the second year in a row. This match is an incredible tour de force. We're going to talk about it obviously, but it's a match that, I maybe didn't expect to rank as high as it did. And very much like last year's number 1 match, which was Nakajima's match with Go Shiozaki, when I watched this at the time, I thought it was excellent. Obviously, knew that it had potential to be on this list, but didn't expect it top 5, maybe didn't expect it top 10. But when I rewatched it for this project, I was just completely enthralled by it. If you told me that I would have, multiple 60-minute draws on this countdown list, I would have thought you were nuts. If you would have told me that I would have had 2 60-minute draws in the top 5, I would have thought that was impossible. Yet here we are. So I've telegraphed it. This match goes to a 60-minute time limit draw. It is one of the most enthralling, captivating 60-minute draws that you will ever see. And the reason for that is this match is so disgustingly brutal. And the fact that both of them keep that up for an hour, I can't fathom how their bodies are able to do it. So Nakajima and Kenou, they are both part of the Congo stable in Pro Wrestling Noah. As fate would have it, they met in the finals of the N1 tournament, which is Noah's version of the G1 Climax. Nakajima would win. That match went, I think, just a hair over 20 minutes. It was disgustingly brutal. It was, right on the bubble of making this top 50, but ultimately didn't. And it was a phenomenal match. Nakajima would capitalize on that win to go on and do what he couldn't do the year prior after winning the N1, and that's win the GHC Heavyweight Championship when he defeated Naomichi Marufuji. I've talked, in the Marufuji and Sugiura video about, Pro Wrestling Noah and their, unfavorable to their fan base booking, where you had, this epic title reign of Go Shiozaki. He dropped the belt to Keiji Muto, which, controversial decision, but I was personally okay with it. But then rather than put over a young talent, Muto dropped the belt to Marufuji, who really didn't need the title run, did a good job with it, but then, would end up, losing the title to Nakajima, and it would lead to this natural rematch here. Kenou was GHC National Champion, basically their version of like an Intercontinental Championship. The year prior in 2021, he would put that title on the line against Go Shiozaki's Heavyweight Championship, and they would go to a 60-minute draw. So there was, a precedent here of the last time we had this big title for title match. It went the time limit, but the difference between that match and this match is if you look at their N1, finals match that these two had, you would think there is no way that 2 human bodies can hit each other as hard as they did in that 20-minute match and triple that. But that ultimately is exactly what they did. Even though these guys are both part of the same stable, they're friends, they're partners, within both of them lives an, just undeniable fighting competitive spirit. You put the grand stakes, of the 2 titles, on the line here, and both of these guys will not hesitate to tear each other apart. And the kind of underlying story with this match as well is, Noah has been having all of these booking troubles, and they've, put guys like Fujita over, and, you have Nasawa and all of these, kind of older wrestlers that, I think if you talk to a lot of the core Noah fan base, and I can certainly speak for myself, Noah has such a great young talent pool. You look at someone like Nakajima, who is not old. Nakajima, I want to say he's like 33, 34 years old. But he's a veteran. He started wrestling, in his early teens. So he's someone that, has been around a long time now, is just incredibly, incredibly good. But, still has a lot of juice left in his career and a lot of longevity that's going to be left for him. So, like, these are the guys that you could be presenting as your main eventers. But for whatever reason, Noah goes back to all of these older wrestlers that, and put them over, these younger guys. So a lot of booking troubles there that unfortunately, at the time of me recording this video is still taking place, in the midway point of 2022. But it is what it is. I can't change that. But what I can do is I can talk about, the spectacular contest that these two had. Right off the hop in this match, they do not waste any time and they immediately trade, brutal kicks to the chest. They trade slaps and leg kicks. They do, settle down a little bit and they're a little bit more tentative. And I talked about this when I had the two matches between Will Ospreay and Shingo on this countdown, where they also had a tournament finals in the New Japan Cup finals, and then they would have a follow-up title match, a month and a bit later. And the differences between those two matches are in, the New Japan Cup match, right away it's balls to the walls, it's a tournament finals, it's a one and you're done. But then in the title match, you have a bit more to work with, right? You have the time limit, so there's the champion's advantage. You have to be more tentative because you have your title at stake that you can lose. So that's essentially what we see here. So they start out hot and heavy. It does dial back slightly. They become a little bit more tentative, but there was never really a point in this match where these two are not unloading on each other with hard strikes. There is this juxtaposition that we also saw in the N1 finals where, Kenou, the leader of the Congo stable, he breaks clean when he has the opportunity to do it against Nakajima. Nakajima, is this dastardly villain. He does not do the same. He does not break clean. He unloads every opportunity he gets. And that just leads to this escalation through the early point in the match, where, like I said, they unload on each other. There's a moment here where Nakajima gets an advantage with a dragon screw leg whip, and just it goes to work on the knee. He takes the match to the floor. He hits, a shin breaker on the guardrail, and he's bending the leg over the guardrail. And this is really great and really smart for a match that's going to go long like this one, because it gives, this focal point for the story where, when Nakajima taking out Kenou's leg, it limits a lot of his offense. Kenou relies, heavily on knees and double stomps and kicks. So it would make sense that you would weaken the leg that he uses for all of those moves. But it also gives Nakajima this great opportunity to bait Kenou into using that leg all throughout the match, which is something that he does. And both of these guys are so tough, for Nakajima. It makes sense for him to egg Kenou on and, take a brutal kick to the chest or a brutal kick to the back, because he knows ultimately he's tough enough to take it, but the damage that Kenou causes to his own leg, in the grand scheme of things is going to be beneficial for him. So it creates this compelling dynamic. We get a lot of great moments of, Kenou firing up in these strike exchanges and using the bad leg and having to sell it. He hits the double knees off the top, but, at what cost does he do that? Later on in the match, we see him do his wild double stomp all the way from the top rope, all the way down to the arena floor, which is just a psychotic move. But again, at what cost to that bad leg? There's so much just chippiness and defiance in this match, and that is what I love. Nakajima, he does this spot in all of his matches where he, places both boots, into the face and neck of his opponent and fully extends his body in the counter and kind of poses for the camera on the ring ropes. So he does that to Kenou here, and Kenou is great, firing up and, absorbing, those boots and absorbing kicks and striking them right back. And, both of these guys have these great moments of this match of just, being completely knocked on their ass from strikes and, selling being dazed and all of that great stuff. We have a bunch of great double downs throughout the match where they're hitting, simultaneous head kicks and simultaneous slaps and all of that really, really great stuff. We transition, we get big moves, peppered throughout this match. We get, flipping dragon suplexes off the top, and Nakajima hits the diamond bomb, which is like his version of like a Death Valley driver or more like an attitude adjustment off the second rope. But like I said, what really the meat and potatoes of this match is it's all of the crazy strikes, and the fact that for 60 minutes, both of these guys kick each other in the face, in the head, in the chest, in the legs, in the back. It is, one of the stiffest matches I can remember seeing in quite some time. And, we think of all of these legendary, stiff pro wrestling matches. And the ones that I think, I always go to is, the matches between Daisuke Akita and Yuki Ishikawa. So, they had, the Battle Arts fights and the Futen fight and, the WXW fight that was on my, high on my list for the top 50 matches of 2020. You think of all of these just amazingly stiff matches where these guys, you could, it's funny with them because like I always assumed they hated each other, because for you to hit someone that hard, you have to hate that person. There has to be, that grudge that's making you do it. But the more that I grow up, and especially when I see matches like this, I don't know if it's about hatred as much as it is about, having this professional respect for each other where, that you're a tough SOB, but that the person that you're, at the end of the day, your dance partner, the person you're working with in the match can take, those strikes, but that they can fire back and give you those receipts. And it creates these amazing, compelling matches. What I love about this match, and I talked about this a little bit in previous 60-minute draw videos during this countdown, and I said eventually I'm going to contradict this. Well, here it comes is, for a 60-minute draw, I hate a couple ways that these matches normally end. And I talked about this in the Fred Yehai and Josh Alexander video the other day, where I feel you can often have like these contrived finishes to a 60-minute draw. And I'll look at the one between Adam Page and Bryan Danielson where, Adam Page hits the buckshot lariat right when the time limit expires. And that one's not the best example because it came off okay. But, we see all of these matches all the time where, somebody is covering and just, if they only had one more second, they would have won. Or someone grabs a submission and the guy taps out, right when the time is expiring. And it seems so forced to me all of the time because, it's as luck would have it, one more second is all you need it. So what I normally like to see in a 60-minute draw is I like to see this sense of urgency at the end where these guys are aware of how much time is left, especially if it's being counted down, where, they're constantly trying to go for the win. And that's something that the Yehai and Alexander draw did really well. But this match is the exception to the rule because when they're doing the time cues at the end, especially when, there's 1 minute left, both of these guys at this point are so blinded by the fight that they're in, neither one of them tries to go for the win. There's no big move, there's no roll up, there's no flash submission, there's a strike exchange, so you could argue, maybe they're trying for the quick knockout. But both of these guys are trading, slaps and lariats and everything just back and forth and back and forth. And to me, it had nothing to do with, the time limit expiring and needing to grab that quick win. Was both of these guys at this point had so much bravado built up throughout the match that, they were just going to fight until somebody stopped them, and that fight could have went another hour, based on how these two went through this match. And I really liked it. It had this really legitimate feel to it that fit the theme of the match of these guys just brutalizing each other for 60 minutes. And And, you know, it's normally something on paper. If you told me that's how this match ended, I would have been like, oh, that's kind of lame. But it really, really worked. And that's the great thing about wrestling, and something that I think, you know, people really need to be open-minded to is, you know, we have these preconceived notions of what we like and what we don't, but sometimes what we don't like can work for us. And sometimes the things that are tried, tested, and true that we know we love don't always work. It depends on the circumstances. It depends on, you know, the athletes presenting it, and that's okay. It's okay to change your mind, and it's okay to like different things, and it's okay to be open-minded about it. You know, if 60-minute draw is great in pro wrestling Noah and has an ending that I would normally hate, you know, if it happened on AEW television, hey, that's a-okay. This match, though, like I said, it is so compelling. It is just an amazing watch. For a 60-minute match, it never feels long because you're just captivated by the strikes between these two. The 20-minute match that they had at the end one truthfully felt like a 5-minute match because they just unloaded on each other the whole time. Here you have a 60-minute match that feels like it's 15 or 20 minutes long. If you're not paying attention to the time cue, where, you know, you've got something to do, where, you know, you have an alarm set or you're checking your watch or whatever, then this match will fly by and you'll be shocked that it goes 60. I've never seen a draw, a 60-minute draw, I should say, that is just this brutal. I don't know how either of these guys do it. Two of the toughest men in the entire world. But it creates for this amazing watch. And you get a great post-match here, which ultimately, you know, I didn't include in, you know, my positioning of this match on the countdown. But you get a big post-match return of Go Shiozaki coming back from the Muda loss, coming back from an injury, basically coming out. And these two guys that I said, you know, we're fighting each other to basically be like, we're the guys that should be main eventing. And he comes out and he's like, but don't you forget, I am Noah Nakajima. You've got that belt. You won the tournament again, but you couldn't beat me for it. And it would set up an amazing title match between Nakajima and Shiozaki for the start of 2022. This match is phenomenal. You can check it out on Wrestle Universe. You can subscribe to my channel here on YouTube so that you never miss a video. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Wrestling50. And please join me again next time as we continue to count down Pro Wrestling's Top 50.